Thank you for joining us in today's Connection Point End Times News Briefing podcast. And there's so much going on right now. Let's just dive into some breaking news that is happening in Israel. As we all know, there's so much turmoil going on today. Israel is being not only persecuted and surrounded by the enemies and attacked. You get Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Iran, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, etc. But in this hatred and this persecution against Israel is only a hint of what's going to continue to happen in the end times, as Matthew 24 tells us. But here's some news headlines that's happening today, right now, and a couple articles from yesterday. Out of All Israel website talks about rockets, riots, and rage. More than 300 rockets fired at Israel so far. More than 700 wounded on Temple Mount and West Bank. So updated at 2 p.m. Israel time, Israel calls up 5,000 troops in the midst of a new regional war. Netanyahu orders retaliatory strikes, warning terrorists will pay a heavy price. Pray for calm and peace to be restored. Also out of the Daily Mail yesterday had this article talking about Temple Mount death rises as IDF retaliates against Hamas terrorist groups after over 150 missiles fired on Israel from Gaza Strip's border. And then we see another report out of Brett Bart talks about Israel's Iron Dome destroys Palestinian rockets barrage. Times of Israel also talks about that 130 targets in Gaza were attacked overnight after 200 rockets fired at Israel. And then, of course, the Times of Israel continues to have the story about how the IDF sends reinforcement to Gaza border as Hamas issues ultimatum on Jerusalem. So you can see the tension is mounting. And there's even an image that I saw on Twitter from the IDF of all the different areas where there's sirens going, where there's attacks that is happening as we speak. And so the tension, the escalation, the threat is more now than ever before. It's just a matter of time before we see an all-out war breaking out, whether it's the Psalm 83, as some have already believed that's already taken place, but you can still see some of those components in the surrounding nations that would be there. And of course, the Ezekiel 38 scenario, still more has to be developed, but we're getting closer and closer to seeing that happening. But just the tension, the instability that's happening in the Middle East. I do believe that there's still a lot more things that need to take place, but again, there's so much that's happening so quickly, we can see how things can escalate. So when it comes to Bible prophecy, again, we need to always keep an eye and a pulse on what is happening to Israel and in the Middle East. Again, it's good to know what's happening in other areas around the world, what is happening politically, socially, economically, spiritually, and so we need to have a biblical understanding and perspective when it comes to all of this. But right now, we need to be praying for Israel, for protection, for people to come to the Lord first and foremost, and also praying for the body of Christ around the world to be ready, to waken up, to be people of prayer, to be people of faith and of courage, to have wisdom and discernment, to be ready for the Lord's return. So just want to do a quick update here of this breaking news of what is happening in Israel. So may the Lord radically and outrageously bless you. Until next time, God bless.
Thank you.